How does a country position itself strategically for partnership? What are the things to consider when picking a trade partner as a country?
Well, if you're picking a trade partner, you have to ensure that there are win-wins on both sides. First and foremost, you have to choose partners that are strategic with your policy for gain. So if you are looking at what you produce, you have to ensure that, one, you have your markets both domestically, regionally, and internationally, and that your partners are willing to purchase from you at a good price and a good trade price. And you, on the other hand, might have to be willing from their side to purchase from them. And it should be a win-win so that you don't end up with trade deficits and that you are doing all the purchasing and buying and you can't sell.
All right, Ambassador, glad to have you join us on Early Exchange once again. It's a pleasure hosting you. I would like you to educate us on the importance of global alliance and then the comparative advantage when it comes to global, trade and partnership.
Yes. Well, global alliances, you have to choose your partners well. Those who are aligned with your policy in terms of your strategic policy for the country and the country's economy. Comparatively, everybody works for their country. You hear the Americans say it, you hear the Chinese say it, and they then start to develop, the environment to ensure that they can produce to sell. Chinese have become factories, in every part of their provinces. Americans drive their economy as well by a lot of manufacturing and industrial action. So Africa and Nigeria, which has, great technology-minded people, should now be thinking of knowledge-based systems and manufacturing and putting factories in place to manufacture finished goods so that comparatively you are meeting your opposite number on the same level playing field. But if you don't, and you are just a buyer, where's the comparative advantage? What you're doing is that you are just one of the markets that they're exploiting, and you cannot exploit any other market. And I dare say that sometimes when African countries also get into production, you get very stiff penalties in terms of goods and quality, and they force your prices based on what they accept for the market.
At this time, Nigeria is looking for lots of partners. The president is wooing investors wherever he goes to. Now, what other areas that Nigeria has comparative advantage that the country should be building on in order to have a balance of trade favorable to Nigeria?
Okay, we have a vast land mass area, almost 1 million square kilometers, and a lot of it is arable land. Agriculture absolutely should be one of the key things that the president and the country should be looking at, utilizing the mass land area for agriculture. We have minerals. It's important that we have those minerals and those mineral resources mined properly. And when I say mined properly, you bring technology, you create partnerships with the local communities, and the local communities can have transfer of technology and training instead of us having, most of the young being exploited. We have to be like Ghana did a little example of it, but they have not continued. Put a factory in every community where you have resources. Build on your agricultural wealth that we've had before, where Nigeria was a food basket, essentially. Nigeria can recreate that food basket. I know we are doing rice and going to other areas of wheat and other products that are most needed, both in your near market of West Africa and the African continent. And then your surplus is what you export. Trinidad had a very nice model on local content, and that's one of the things that I think we need to do, deepen our local content. And the deepening of local content is that you participate in every aspect of the value chain of whatever you do in the country. That is where you'll get comparative advantage. Yes, wooing investors is one thing, but what are the investors going to bring to add value to your policy? And it's not just about bringing investors in and they're, you're flagging their money. What is the transfer of knowledge, transfer of training, transfer of technology, and transfer of skills that they are going to use for benefiting the economy to give us comparative advantage?
All right. If you look at the statistics, China is dominating the global trade, partnering with about 120 countries. What kind of alliance do you think a country like Nigeria can form with a country like China, who is trading with over 120 countries? And then what impact will this have on the economy of Nigeria?
Okay, one of the very first things is just use the same Chinese example. China, what did they do? They looked inward for about, 50 years, and then they had a clear focus, 5-year plans, and they wanted to make sure that they became the importer of technology from the US, from the West, mimicked it or actually partnered with it, and then said, okay, come and do all your manufacturing here. And all the companies from the US, etc., came and established there. They did reverse engineering. And at the end of the day, they became the world's industrial hothouse. Now, Nigeria could do the same. Say to China, okay, you manufacture a lot of machinery. Show us how to manufacture some of those machineries. Set up model factories like the Chinese with the Chinese. That is the way that you have win-wins that I talked about earlier on. You must have win-wins. It's not a question of, yes, you have this, we keep buying, we keep procuring, and there's no comparative advantage. We either have to have comparative advantage because we have the resources, so we can have comparative advantage by saying, okay, invest for a period of time, but make everyone, for example, in the communities, participant in that process. They are trained, not you just bring Chinese workers and you bring your equipment and then you exploit the resources and then you go. No, you participate, you make sure that Nigerians have the skills, have the technology training, have the transfer of technology, and become shareholders. So if you're using your machinery because we don't have it, train us how to make it, train us how to use it, and then manufacture locally and let the communities and the country be participant as shareholders. That would be my policy to the Minister of Economy, Wale Edu, and Minister of Finance, and the Ministry of Industry. Those are things, and the Bank of Industry. Those are things that I would like to see happen in our country.
Let's look at the AFCFTA. It is expected to increase trade between African countries by 53% in 2030 and also create 18 million jobs across Africa. What are the factors that will facilitate the feasibility of the AFCTA?
Right, a very good question there. What will facilitate is acceleration of a standard mean of exchange, standard currency that will facilitate, at the side of sovereign currency, trading between the nations, because that is the bugbear. I'm happy to say that we have been working on a standard United Digital African Currency Contract. And the currency contract is based on digital blockchain. It is now trusted that blockchains is a means of exchange. And digital currency has already a classic reference point, the euro. The European nations, when they wanted to trade among themselves and wanted to move away from the dollar and also sterling, had to come up with a digital currency. Before it became paper, it was a digital form of contract. And it is a perfect example of how nations who wish to trade within themselves, and the European Union is a union, just like the African Union is a union, and need a digital currency. So using blockchain technology that is transparent, and the other fact is that we have trillions of dollars, if you want to put a reference point, worth of reserves in the earth of Africa, right? Which is second to none anywhere else in the world. And therefore, why the need to use any other currency than a standard United Digital Currency contract for trading among ourselves?
The president of Kenya, Ruto, is advocating for a united, form of currency for Africa, a unified form of currency for Africa. Interestingly, you also came up with some initiative recently, the SUPDAC thing. I would like you to shed more light on your initiative, and then the significance of having a unified currency for Africa.
Right. Okay. So if I could just let you hear this. A practical integrated blueprint is long overdue for overhauling the fundamentals of local, community, regional, and global economic sustainability. How business is transacted, profits are utilized, and how our more advanced knowledge and technology can better serve our individuals, our society, and our planet is the metamorphosis that is required. So what we looked at is, how do we do that? We looked at an architecture, which my partner, Dr. Mark Hewitt, he's innovated. He is ex-IBM, and he worked on the blockchain technology over the years that came out of IBM. And we looked at what is required to unify, the payments. You already have a payment settlement system that is existing in Africa at the moment, and I think Kenya is adopting it, which is good, and we will be partnering with them. We're looking at partnering with them because that's a settlement system. But your idea of how to trade and how to be secure with those transactions are aided by blockchain technology. You can see every transaction transparently. You can see who transacted what, when, where, what time, right down to an infinite minute or second. And you can trade safely knowing that your transaction is in open architecture. You do not have to get rid of your individual sovereign currency. But I think with time, like Europe did, because don't forget, Europe had the lira, they had the mark, they had all the other currencies. And then it was at the side of developing the euro. Eventually, to trade and to ensure that they were able to trust that new form of payment system, they slowly got rid of their individual currencies. And I foresee that is what is going to happen for us in Africa. The SUDAC is a standard United Digital African Currency contract. We start with a contract first, because then you are contracting between yourselves. And you're seeing a standard form of contract that is trusted and sustainable and is unified and is based on local resources. And for that, it's a way forward. President Ruto, yes, is pioneering and has talked about it. And we are meeting, hopefully with him very soon, for him to champion what we have innovated as a means of exchange for contract and trade within the ACFTA. Because if the ACFTA is to move forward, what, as your presenter has just asked, it has to be accelerated. Apart from breaking down borders and free travel within the union, the important thing is a standard means of exchange and a standard sustainable currency contract like the euro, which is our perfect example. If you look at the history of the euro and if you monitor how the euro was developed and evolved, and it is a standard currency today, it was based on trade, that they wanted to trade between themselves because all their currencies were weak.
All right. Could you talk to us about the current trends in global trade partnerships and what can Nigeria learn from that?
The current trend still goes back to winning comparative advantage. You termed it correctly, comparative advantage. The trend is comparative advantage. Where do you go? Why do you go? What are the comparative advantages for each country? So for Nigeria, you have to look at those who are leading, in world trade and partner with them, yes, but you partner on the basis that it is a win-win for both countries. It's a win-win for both trading partners. It is no longer going to be business as usual, where Africa becomes the dumping ground for all goods and services manufactured and sold from abroad. We have technologies just like India has. I mean, India is now the reference point for IT. They are in every aspect of the value chain of any IT company anywhere in the world. What they do, the Indian government decided that Mumbai would become the IT center of the world, and they trained. You see, again, it's talking about local content. They trained all of their local knowledge-based skilled graduates in IT, and then they farmed them out to the world. So Nigeria has quite a lot of IT knowledge-based individuals. I mean, you just have to visit Computer Village in Lagos or anywhere in the country, and you see young kids coming up with apps, coming up with so many things. But they need, what do they need? They need funding. So I would call on the Bank of Industry and other investment bankers and what we call angels in the country to start, hot housing, setting up, hot housing in all of these communities within the country. So maybe the Minister of Economy, I will call him Wale Adun, who I know quite well when he was Commissioner of Finance in Lagos State. We worked together when I did security printing of their tax and income tax and revenue documents. So, and he's very switched on. And I would say to him, hot house in almost every aspect of the country, young incubators for IT technology. Let Nigeria be exporting our knowledge. Get comparative advantage from this.
Talking about the African Continental Free Trade, the pact and the agreement, what role do you expect of President Tinubu, having been the chairman of ECOWAS and international bodies like the African Union? What are your expectations from those bodies to ensure that, the target for the agenda for Africa in 2063 is being achieved in this purpose?
Why do we want to go to 2063? That is a bugbear for me. Africa should set their own goals. I set up an organization called ADGI, African Development Goals Initiative. What do we look at and what do we want to look at? You must look at yearly goals. We can't wait for 2063. 2063 is a far off milestone that, many of the people who are here now in policy and strategic planning would not be there in 2063. We have 4-year terms in most countries, 5-year terms. Set yearly agendas. The yearly agendas should be, what do we want to do this year? All the countries of the African Union should say and get together with their peers and say, this year we are going to achieve food security for all. And everybody puts their budget towards food security for all. Next year, health for all. Every country in the union puts their budget for health for all. Next year, education. We put our budget, free education, right up to PhD in our countries. You are now building the continent. The role of ECOWAS, the role of AU is to build the continent. What the hell are we talking about 2063? I don't believe in 2063. I'm sorry. Let us plan yearly for the African continent. The AU has a role to play. And that role to play is to ensure that all the countries on the continent rise with the same development goals. Why are we having individual goals and planning and lending ourselves to international goals, which has nothing relevant to what we need to achieve on the continent. Sorry, I'm a Pan-Africanist and I will speak freely about this. There's no need for us to talk about 2060 and all these other SDGs and UN goals, etc. That's nonsense.